Yep, all good.
Right. Good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our 60 second. What will go 60 second? Yes, 60 second session of DUZ India. Today's session is about bank integration in Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations. A quick agenda for today's session. I'll walk you through a group introduction and a couple of details about today's session, and we'll see if there's an upcoming session. Couple of disclaimer before we go further. All the content views shown on those today's session are purely speaker's own view, and they doesn't represent anything from Microsoft or their employees. We try our best to show any demo within Console database, and any recommendation coming out of those sessions should not be applied directly to production environment. Please give a try to lower environments first, and then once you are happy, you can apply those to your production environment. All of our sessions are recorded, and recording will be uploaded on our YouTube channels. By joining these calls, you are consenting to be part of the recording session. If you do not consent, it's the right time you leave this call, and you can have all those sessions recorded available on our YouTube channel. This is our group, Dynamics 365 User Group India. It's been, I think, 4 years since we created this group. We are nearly 4,000 members globally and continuously increasing. We are four people of team working as a volunteering on this group. Mr. Rachit Garg, Mr. Umesh Pandit, Mr. Satya Kejriwal, and myself. Rachit and Satya based out in Melbourne, Australia. This is quite late for them. Thank you for being there, guys. Umesh joined us from India, and I'm based out in UK. There are social media pages available here. Please feel free to take a screenshot and join all those pages groups, so you can be updated with our latest updates, any announcement on the upcoming sessions. All our past sessions are available on our YouTube channel. This is a quick snap of the last 6 sessions we have available. Today's session is delivered by Alireza, and I don't dare to pronounce his last name. It's all about bank integration in Dynamics 365 made simple. Without any further delay, I will hand it over to you, Alireza. Over to you, and thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Just let me just share my screen. Yes.
Before we start,
Can you
would you
see
like
my
to
screen?
understand how you pronounce his last name?
Yeah,
I
that was
don't dare.
Huh?
yeah. That was
Sorry, say again, Lija?
yeah, let's try. So
How you pronounce it?
Do you have
repeat
any-
this first.
to be honest, it's a little bit hard, so it's challenging for most of the person to pronounce it correctly, but it's Eshak Zadeh. So Zadeh is son, and Eshak are Isaac. So Isaacson. So it's totally challenging for everyone to pronounce it. So I do understand, Deepak, why you haven't dared to just call it out. So it's
People is thinking bank integration is easier than pronouncing a name, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was at one point also in the disclaimer. So to be honest, it was perfect. I love it, but to have something funny, say, okay, do not try at home. But today, I do guarantee that this is something that you can try in your UAT environment to just make sure that the step-by-step that we are going through. So this is something that's totally standard. So, and at least all of us has access to standard environment, Contoso or customer UAT environment. So we can at least so give a try. So to just find it out, does it worth to work with the standard, or just continue with the ISV? So as a start, I appreciate Dynamics user group in India, Rashid, Umesh, Satya, and Deepak for inviting me for presenting this session. And you have started the session, so I don't know about the time zone. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, and welcome to this session that's about the bank integration in Dynamics 365, finance and operation made simple. I try to have an end-to-end guide through this presentation. My name is Alireza. So as a short introduction, I'm a Microsoft MVP in the AI ERP, and I'm a principal architect at Knowit company specializing in finance and operation implementation and support phase. I'm also a guest lecturer at Norwegian University of Science and Technology, and my proficiency and core competence is basically in the data management, electronic reporting, and project accounting. And to be honest, also just focusing on utilizing standard functions. I have a master in the global production management with this specialization on the web-based ERP systems, and bachelor in the industrial engineering. I also try to be actively contribute to the Microsoft community for D365 Finance Forum. Yes, in this session, we will explore how Dynamics 365 Finance and Operation and Globalization Studio can support the complete payment lifecycle, from generating payment files to reconcile and settlement processes. We will look also to the end-to-end process, common implementation challenges, importance of the data quality requirements, and practical examples of how configurable solutions can improve automation, security, and maintainability. So to start, bank integration is not just a technical interface to a bank. It's an end-to-end finance process that connects master data, payment execution, bank communication, and feedback handling, and at last on the settlement and reconciliation. The goal of this session is to show how organization can build the bank integrations that are scalable and aligned with the standard finance and operation capabilities. So we start with this argument that why bank integration matters in the modern ERP. So bank integration is a critical part of modern ERP because it connects financial operations directly with the bank activity. It gives organization real-time visibility to cash positions, helping teams make faster and more informed decisions. By reducing this manual data entry, it lowers the risk of errors and improves the overall process's efficiency. It also speeds up the bank reconciliation by matching transactions more accurately and consistently. So most importantly, it strengthens audit trails integrity by ensuring bank-related activities that are traceable and controlled and easier to review. So we have also a common implementation challenges. So many bank integration issues are not caused by the file format itself. So they comes from the unclear ownership, incomplete master data, missing status handling, status handling, and also over customized design. So to be honest, you may have experienced the situation that you are working either with the ISV or with a standard, but still you have a problem with a new, for example, bank standards or customization that you need to perform in the solution based on the requirement from the bank. So this is something that we need to see it as an end-to-end process. And we will cover it this session about how we can just cover this in this whole end-to-end journey. So the implementation challenge is to separate what should be standardized and what should be configured and what are genuinely required extensions. 5 recurring pain points from real implementations that I have just created as a bullet points here is the bank app preparatory rules on the top of the standard format. So requirements vary by countries, Rails, identifiers, and format. This is the most common issues that we have. Ownership is fragmented across finance and treasury or IT or bank or middleware. And poor master data cause payment rejection. And custom codes become a maintenance burden across the upgrades. So we need to have some understanding over the implementations challenges so we can choose the correct approach to either go with the standard, go with the customization. So if I just have a compare standardization and customization, so we need to think about that when designing bank integration in finance and operation, it is important to balance these two, standardization with customization. Always, as a recommendation, always start with the configuring the required format before considering the custom code. As many as requirement can be handled through the electronic reporting. So as a shortcut here, electronic reporting as an under element in the globalization studio is the framework and tool that Microsoft has created purposefully for integrations purposes. So where available, Microsoft provided ER configurations should be used as a starting point to reduce the effort and maintain the alignment with the standard functionality. Why? Because Microsoft is the main vendor of the ERP solutions. So they are back to provide all of these regulatory reports or integration purposes that you need to have to classify your solution as a ERP, for example, for the bank integration, for the tax declaration, and also for the regulatory report, for example, FTA or SAFT. So we need to have some configuration standard in solution. So Microsoft has provided already this by electronic configurations. And customization should not be also introduced when specific business or bank requirements cannot be met through the configuration alone. It is also the best practice to keep file formats separate from the transport logic. So this is my core argument here, that if you want to start with a bank integration, that's the best practice is to keep format logic separate from the transport logic. So it helps you so much so to fragment this at this level, and you can just tackle this issue much easier. So making the solution easier to maintain, test, and upgrade. To have a better understanding here, so I have created some most used bullet points, or let us say challenges that we have. Okay, in which case we need to go with the standard, in which case we need to go with the ISV, and also the consequences. And as you see, I have just separated in several areas. But the importance of owning the bank file configuration is that owning the bank file configuration is strategically important, because payment files contain highly sensitive information, including bank accounts, payment, beneficiary details, invoice reference, and company bank information. In a standard, you have this possibility to own this data in your SharePoint in the finance and operation. So one of these pitfalls that we have, that with the ISV, so you just transfer all of this information to the ISV. Do not misunderstood here that it doesn't mean that the ISV is not secure enough, but this is one of the concerns that some customers has, that okay, who has this critical and sensitive data, and how we can just count on this ISV that they take after or look at, they maintain this data securely. And the next level is the flexibility of the globalization studio. So to be honest, globalization studio gives the organization considerable flexibility to respond to the bank requirements, because it's low code, not low code, no code configuration based in finance and operation. In the user interface, you have some limited functions from the Excel, from the visual, from the SQL. So you can create your join, you can create your filter, and you can get the data, import or export the data. So it's the main tool that we have in finance and operations in the user interface. Do not need downtime, upgrade, or you need do not think about the new version of finance and operations. So it's completely alliance with this. But the main challenge that we have is the understanding and expertise in the electronic reporting. But the good thing is that when it's we want to focus in the bank integration, so Microsoft already has created some standard configuration that can be reused. You can just use the standard one, or in the worst case, you can just customize it based on the requirement from the bank. And effect on the release that I mentioned about the downtime, the cost. So the major advantage of the globalization studio is the bank format modification can generally be released as a configuration changes rather than application code changes. So to be honest, one important note that I have here: do not compare electronic reporting with the code. So they are not comparable. Code, you can do everything in the code. Electronic reporting is just a tool that you have in the user interface that can be used for integration tools. So here, the most important thing that you do not mix these two, that, okay, you just come back and say, oh, okay, we can do it with the application. I'm a developer, so it's much easier to do it in the code. Absolutely. So here you need to take to consideration that Electronic Globalization Studio is just the tool created for a technical or a functional consultant that want to, let us say, resolve such issues through Dynamics Finance and Operation user interface. So take it into consideration. So, and next part is the last part is that the consequence of the ISV dependency. So ISV provides significant value when a required bank and format are already included in the supported library. It can also reduce the internal maintenance and provide a managed connectivity service. The dependency becomes more visible when a bank introduces a new customer, new specific requirements, or changes or modifications, or sometimes there is a quality of the data that, for example, the binding, the mapping. So they need some time and cost that you need to put for the to ISVs, because you are totally dependent. I don't want to go through the ISV dependency, because it doesn't important which ISV you are using. So there are some dependency that we have. So most known about the upgrades, about the issues, about the response time. Take it into consideration. We are talking about the bank integration, and every bank cases is a super urgent. So if you get a case about the bank, so it doesn't work, so it means that either you are missing money or you cannot transfer the money to the correct beneficiary. So take it into consideration that we need to have as much as we can a minimal dependency on another beneficiary or another actor here as an extra layer as a dependency. So if we want to have summarized this one, so select finance and operations standard with the globalization studio as the primary bank integration framework. Since Microsoft, as I told, provides the ERP platform and standard country region specific configuration for supported scenarios. So while drive the electronic reporting configuration to give the organization the flexibility to meet the individual bank's requirements. This approach preserves ownership, security, control, data transparency, and release independence and long-term maintenance. And ISV should be considered as just a recommendation only where it's a direct bank connectivity or existing format coverage provides a clear business benefit that cannot be efficiently delivered through the standard architecture. So there are several examples here, so we can just go through the ISV. And the main concept here is that not the ISV is bad and we need to move to the standard. No, it's opposite. So we want to just highlight what the standards has been delivered through this time, because one of the challenges that we have several consultants that came from the AX2, AX3, AX 2009, AX 2012. So they have a very good experience about this bank integration. And maybe on that time, they have created their own customized solutions or they have used also ISV applications. And to be honest, now we have in finance and operations, and sometimes we forget that this solution is Azure based, something has been changed. Nowadays it's agent based with the immersive home. So we need to just go through what is the roadmap of the Microsoft and how Microsoft as a main ERP vendor, they have resolved such these issues and challenges in finance and operation in standard. So how Microsoft has think, what is the background from the electronic reporting globalization studio, and how we can take advantage of this if we want to start, if we don't want to start from the scratch, or if we don't want to take hands from our old ISV to the new ERP solutions. Maybe they were very good on the previous ERP solution, but here is another ERP. It's a new version, so we need to take advantage of the new features, new functionality that Microsoft has been added to finance operations. So first of all, so I will show you the architect and like a conceptual study over this session, that we start from the how we generate the file, how we transfer the file to the bank, and in reverse how we import the file, and how we can start from the scratch. So so take it into consideration. So first of all, so I start with the globalization studio. I have just created the detailed view over globalization studio here about how it can be used as the main integration tools. But if we want to have more, if we want to have more information about, as I mentioned, so it's a tool used for integration purpose, for import of the data or export the data. So export the data can be a bank file, can be a regulatory report as SAFT. So for example, tax transaction, ledger transaction, or it can be a output management to, for example, business documents that you can export the data, or in for the import purposes. So if you want to import some information, for example, through finance and operation, for example, bank receipts, bank settlement file, bank statement. So the good things here that in electronic reporting framework, so it supports all of the tables and entities. So you have possibility to export the data or import the data. So you have access to the data entities, you have access to the classes and objects. So for those ones that have a developer expertise, so this is much easier to understand, but it doesn't mean that if you are a functional consultant, it's hard to understand here. It just takes a little bit time that you can just understand, oh, how we can create a relation, how we can create the join, how we can extract the data, how we can, for example, enhance the performance issue. For example, most known is that the var and filter function. So I do recommend that just go through this tool, electronic reporting, see how Microsoft has created each report to understand, oh, okay, is it possible, for example, to have export of this data, this table with just this field and this field? Or to be honest, sometimes you can just learn about these mappings that Microsoft has created So it's by the dry version. Sometimes we don't need to start from the scratch. And today's I will go through that in detail, that how we can take advantage of this standard, and by creating a dry version, so we can just add the missing mapping or add a specific fields that doesn't exist in the format that Microsoft has delivered. But to be honest, this globalization tool that Microsoft has created is mostly used for bank integration, invoicing, tax declaration, and also regulatory reports, as I mentioned. So how we can go through these configurations that Microsoft has delivered? So as a first step, we need to have access to the Dataverse repositories. So as you see in the screenshot, so I already has provided the screenshot that you need to go to Microsoft Electronic Reporting or Globalization Studio, go through the Microsoft repository, and then click on Dataverse to open the Dataverse repositories. Here you always has the most newest configuration that Microsoft has delivered. For example, in this case, I have just highlighted the ISO 222, which is the most used bank formats or standards formats that used across the whole world now for the bank integration. There are also other formats for the bank reconciliation, BAY, and also MT M900T. So this is something that we're just focusing on the most used one. So on the next slide, so I have also highlighted, if you want to start bank integration from the scratch, so you need to think about all of the configuration that is related for the export and import. Export is classified on the payment model mostly, which is the credit transfer, which is for exporting. And when it comes to the import, so you need to have the PAN 02 and CAMP 044. And in addition to that, we need to have also model mapping for each of these. And as you see in the picture, I have highlighted the model mapping that is used for the export, which is a 1611. And for the import, which is a payment model mapping for destinations. So both of these must have the flag for the default. So default for model mapping. So make sure that as soon as you have installed it or imported from the repositories, Dataverse, so have this flag also. When it comes to the bank statement, so Microsoft has created a separate model for that, which is called Advanced Bank Reconciliation Statement Model. So make sure that once you have imported the ABR CAMP 53, strongly recommended because this is the newest one that Microsoft has created. And when it comes to the model mapping, make sure that the following model mapping, which is the bank statement model mapping in destinations, has this flag also. So this is the first start. That this is the configurations that we need to have imported in the environment. A question: is it a global, or do I need to do or import it for each company? No, it's global. So you just import it from the Dataverse. It doesn't import on which company you're sitting. So just importing one time. The main thing that you need to make sure that when it comes to the model mapping, so you just put it in one company as the default. So it will be used for all companies as a default. So this is the first part. Number two is that, okay, we need to understand these payment files that we need to work with. So first of all, if I just go through the payment file, so we have PAN 001, which is the customer credit transfer. And if I want to elaborate better, so I have just create a name. So vendor payment file. So it's mostly used as the direction out in the type XML. And when it comes to the PAN 02, so it's like a payment status report. So it means that when we send the file to the bank, so it will process and it will just give us something like a receipt that they have received the file. So in this part, the name is a little bit technical, but the main important things I want to see here, so it's about the CAMP 044, which is I just add the C and D. So it's not a specific format, it's just CAMP 054, but used for the debit and credit. So for the debit, it is for the vendor, and when it's come to the credit, it's for the customers. So most of them are payment files, but on a specific direction that is used: debit, vendor, and credit customer. And on the last part is account 053, which is the bank statement file that we get from the bank. So if we want to visualize it, so how it works, so no matter which ERP solution that you have, ERP, Business Central, Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations, so payment zero file, a payment file, we send it to the bank, and we receive these 4 files separately from the bank. So pane 002 is the receipt file. As soon as we send the pane 001, so we get the 02, something like a 10 seconds, or it's something like a syntax error check. And after some days that the payment has been processed, so we get the settlement file, so we can import into the solution. Once we get the settlement file, so the bank statement file will be ready. I will go through that in detail now. So how is the consequence? What is the importance of each payment file? So before I start that level, so we need to have some information about the bank and payment setup. So first of all, we start from the bank information. So if we want to start from the scratch, if we want to create a bank account for one legal entity, what information we need? So understanding bank information is essential for accurate and compliant payment process in finance and operation. Core identifiers are the bank account number, IBAN, SWIFT, that helps to ensure that payments are routed to the correct account and receiving bank, especially for the domestic and international transactions. Country-specific identifiers like routing number, sort code, clearance number, FIC code, bank code are used to support the local payment requirements and bank validation rules. For example, FIC code is important, for example, to be used for a domestic payment in Denmark. Having the correct bank master data is in place. Let us say it's reduces the payment failures and improve the automation. So, and strengthen the control across the payment processes. And it matters since the correct company bank setup ensures the payment files are generated accurately and accepted by the bank. So take it into the consideration that, okay, this bank needs to be used for a domestic or a foreign payment. It is a specific currency that needs to be used. So based on this, I do recommend, so just provide all of the information that you must have it. For example, as I mentioned, for example, in some countries, for example, in Norway, bank account number is enough for domestic payment. But when it comes, for example, to the UK, you need to have a sort code. Or when it comes to the some other countries, you need to have bank code, for example, in the Germany. So make sure that you have provided all of this information on the bank account table. So, for example, address, I will go through that. But the main thing that you need to make sure the information that you are registering as a bank information is valid. The next part is that differentiating between the domestic and foreign payments. So for a domestic, as I mentioned, so routing number, sort code, bank account number is usually used. It's a country specific. But when it's come to the foreign or cross-border, so it requires mainly IBAN and SWIFT. For a SEPA, countries also requires IBAN and BIC or SWIFT code. But you need to also, when it comes to bank accounts that you are creating, so although it's domestic, so just provide it with all of the information that's required. So maybe you need to use this bank account for also foreign payments. So what I do recommend, so if we start from the first part, bank account, we need to have bank account number, currency. If you are working with the foreign also payments, so allow transaction additional currency. Just provide all of the bank specific, for example, fields that need to be filled out, like a routing number, sort code, and bank code. But if you doesn't have this information, for example, in Norway, we don't have it, so feel free. So SWIFT code, IBAN, company ID, which is something like client ID that we need to use for some banks, use the company ID as a client ID with the bank, and division, and also address. Address is critical here because as soon as you activated the address here, so it will validate the IBAN and bank account number. Not on this part, but on the vendor. But it's totally important if you want to use the standard bank configuration. So bank integration in finance and operation, you need to have an address for the bank. So address is an enabler that, okay, is it domestic or not? Or currency is the enabler, is it domestic or not? So take it into consideration that you need to have this information totally accurate. But I don't mean the street number must be correct. The whole thing here, that it's recommended you have the whole address correct, but it's recommended that you have at least the country code correctly in the finance and operation. So the whole purpose from these slides is that we just enhance the quality of the master data in finance and operation. It doesn't important you already has started the bank integration journey, or you're going to start with standard OSV. Enhancing the quality of the master data, so it will minimize the risk of the rejection of the files. On the next part is vendor card. So on the vendor, we need to have a valid name, method of payment, address, which is quite critical here. So because the country here, it will check with the country of the legal entity to find it that it is domestic or not in some payment files, and also the address, the currency that you have in your bank accounts. So it will check with the, for example, accounting currency in the company to just find out, is it domestic or not? In some cases, you have possibilities to assign the method of payment, and on the payment specification, you just validate that, oh, it is classified as the international or a cross-border payment. So what I do recommend, so have this information clear on your vendor card. When it comes to the vendor bank account, you need to, based on the, if it's a domestic vendor or if it's a foreign vendor, you need to have all of the banking information that we already have discussed. In addition, you need to have the address and currency. In some cases, we can just add the pay name. Microsoft already has enabled this also in the payment journal, so we can just see this field. But what I do recommend, start first with the address, because once you activate the address, so it will enable validation for the IBAN. So in a case that you don't have an address, there is no validation. So you can just write 1, 2, 3, 4. But as soon as you add the address, so it will enable this validation. So, and make sure the information that you have provided for your beneficiary here, for the bank accounts, for your suppliers, vendors, is accurate. And what's the best source for that? There is invoices that you receive from the vendor, I don't know, email about, or the information that your vendor has sent to you. So you can use it as a source. But make sure that you have provided the correct information based on if it's domestic or if it's foreign. So if it's domestic, bank account number and also sort code or routing number is enough. But when it comes to foreign, you must have SWIFT code and the IBAN. But in both cases, we need to have the address and currency. This is the must to do. The next part is the vendor method of payment. You need to just to create the method of payment here, activate it for the generation of the payment file. For example, in this case, I have activated for the export, which is the pain001, and also for the import, which is the can't used, one of these for a received file, and the one another which is secondary is for the settlement file. The same also applies for the payment specification. But if you see here, in this case, there is a standard functionality in Norway. So I can assign a bank account based on the currency. So maybe you cannot see it in your legal entity you're working with. It's normal because it's a Norwegian standard feature. But make sure that you have assigned the correct bank account on the payment account here. So in this case, it's empty because I have this possibility to assign the bank account based on the currency in this picture. The next part here, if you remember on the vendor card, we had a vendor specification. So on the vendor specification, we can just create it as a domestic and a foreign. But the important things is that for the local instrument and the service level, there are some ISO codes that must to be used. For example, when you have a foreign payment, you need to have international local instrument and service level NERC. But when it's come to the domestic, you need to have NERD, or it's meaning non-urgent. But this part is something that's specified by the bank. Some bank has different formats for the foreign and domestic. Some banks accept a mix of domestic and international payment. Some of them, they have one format, but they mean that we need to have generate a separate file. But this is something that we need to consider, that which codes they are using for the local instrument and service level. So basically, if you have your vendor international and you have assigned it to this payment specification, that populate these two codes directly on the file. So it means you have minimized the payment file rejection. The same also applies to the customer method of payment, but in this case, we just generate or import the payment file. So it's a payment file or settlement file that we import from the bank. It has almost the same structure from the vendor method of payment, but the only thing that we need to activate, we need to choose the CAMP 44 as the import configuration format. So there are, in addition to that, so there are several screenshots in the account payable that we need to fill out. The first one is a return format code error. What are there? What are these? These are the fail codes that as soon as you receive the file from the bank, let us say I have generated a file, I send the file to the bank check the file, syntax check for the syntax errors, and find, for example, the beneficiary, for example, bank account is failed. So we need to have these codes and descriptions in finance and operations in a case that we just import the settlement file or the payment receipt file, so we have a clear error message. So to be honest, so bank to bank is different, so they have some codes that they are using, but the good thing is that all of them use the same standard. To align all of them, so I have created a GitHub project, so which named D365FO Tech and ISO 222. So you can go through the error codes, payment format codes, and the return status codes that you need to have in company specific, so in each legal entity, so to have a much easier to handle these error messages that you got from the bank. So the first part is the return format code error codes. The second part is that, okay, you want to process the file, but the codes, statement code, that state code that the bank send, so it needs to change the payment status in the payment file, in the in the journal. So we need to have these codes here, and what is the payment status must be. You can find the same also in this GitHub project. And the last part, if you remember about the payment specification, so we need to define the charge bearer, local instrument, and service level. So I have also provided all of these codes there, so we can just use that. On top of it, there is the part on the account payable which is called account purpose codes, and you can just attach its account purpose code to the vendor card, and it's mostly used for international payment, or they use for the domestic payment that goes over a specific limit that bank has been created. It's company specific, it's country specific. So this code is country specific. The codes that you're watching now, so it's basically for the Norway, so for Sweden and Denmark can varies. So, and it's completely important that we just go through all of this purpose code that one has written down in their bank integration file or the bank files that we need to create for them. So this is something that we need to also take into consideration. And the last part is the bank statement format, which is the CAMP 053. So this table is global. So it means you do not need to set it as previous tables or forms per company. You can just do it for one company. And at last, it's reconciliation matching rules that you can just set it by the date and amount. So it makes it much easier when you import the bank statement file, so it will match it directly after it got imported. So if we want to go through the payment end-to-end scenarios, so if we go through the portfolios that Microsoft has created, so on the source to pay and order to cash and record to reports, part of it is bind with the payments. So on the vendor payment file, which one to settle on the source, we need to have it. And also, when it comes to the record to report is for the bank statement. So one part of it is to import the statement and reconciliation. But if we want to visualize this, how it's work. So first of all, we send the payment file, generate the payment file, which is pane 001. I just call it 01 because it has 2 zeros, so it's much easier. So we send the 01, pane 01 as the payment file to the bank. And what will happen, so the status from the none will be changed to the send, and bank check the file. And as a syntax error, we just send another file back to us. This file is not a payment file. It doesn't not. It means it is not a It's not a settlement file. It's just a syntax error file, something like a receipt. We have received the file. The file is okay, but it doesn't mean that the bank has to start the settlement. So after some days, some hours, it's related to the payment file that we have sent. Is it domestic? Is it which kind of specification or local instrument that we have used? Is it non-urgent? Is it urgent? Is it also international payment? It will process and pay the file. And once the vendor invoice has been paid, so we receive the return file, which we call it the settlement return. So if we want to go through to this flow, so first of all, so we start from the payment, pane 01. So in the pane 01, it's a standard message. We just call it credit transfer or customer credit transfer. So mainly it has per today, so most banks use it either version 3 or version 9. And version 3 and version 9, so they are 95% alike. Just some elements that they have varies. And some banks use one version for the domestic, one version for the foreign, but some banks also have some obligation that specifically this format needs to be used. But how it works. So I have just created the demo here. So we just go through that now. So first of all, I just create the payment journal, vendor payment journal, create the proposal, set a due date, and also I just activate the delete negative payments because we can just handle it manually. And in a case that you want to have just create, for example, domestic payments, so because it's obligation from the bank to have a specific file, so I just choose NOK as a Norwegian crowns, which is the accounting currency in this company. So I just generate the payment proposal file. In this case, the master data has all of the information that we need. So the only things I need to do is that to generate the payment file. As you see, the payment status is none. So I just choose the specific file name, method of payment, and the bank account that I want to export the payment file against. So I click on OK. Then it will be had two functions. Number one, the payment file will be generated in the zip file. Number two, it will be also change the payment status file. Here is also important based on your agreement with the bank. Some banks means that for the formats, you need to have a structure for the domestic and unstructured for the international payments. So it's completely. And what's the difference between the structured and unstructured? On a structured, we have a structured payment information. For example, payment ID as a specific element and invoice number as a specific element. But for unstructured, we only have the something like free text. So either it's invoice number or either is the payment ID. And as you see, is the structure of this payment file that we want to send to the bank. And the score, as you see here, is the enabler or the elements to show the payment ID. So I have created the payment file, and we have just, let us say that we have this integration automatically. So send the file directly to the bank. So as you remember, now we will receive the payment receipt or payment status report. The same as the Pain01. So there are several versions that mostly used. Per today, most of the banks use version 3, but some banks also use version 8. To be honest, most of this is also supported by the Pain002 configuration that Microsoft has created. So we will receive a payment status report from the bank. What will happen? So if we go through, if you remember the latest payment that we have created, so the status are sent on the payment transfer. So we just go to the method of payment, choose the file, method of payment configuration first, and choose the correct configuration that the file needs to be imported. So it's the Pain002. So we need to have choose this. So I use a status report from the bank and import it. So what happened? It will read the file, go to the return format codes, check it. Okay, it's received. So we just check the, for example, the book is the as an element code in the XML file. So we check the return format code and say book is equal to the payment status received, and it will update the received file. What does it mean? It doesn't mean it has been paid. It means it has been just bank has received the file. And as a last part, we have the settlement return debits, which is as soon as the bank has paid the file, paid the invoices through the file that we have sent. So it will send us the settlement file. The same as Pain01 and 2. So we have two most used version here, which is widely used is the 02, which is most of the countries use that, or most of the bank, to be honest. And when it's come to the 8, there are some banks also supported this. It has more extension on the address and also for the big element in the payment file. So if we have also a short demo here, if you remember, so the status is received. I repeat the same steps here. So just choose the method of payment that is associated with the configuration here, and then choose the count 044. And if you see here, there are some steps I need to have choose the file. In a case that I want to remove the proposal journal and just transfer it to the settlement journal, so I can just activate the delete journal and just choose the new journal name. In a case that you want to have the exchange rate from the bank and the settlement aligns with the journal line, so you recommend to activate this. So in this case, two processes will be happen. So first of all, the status will be changed to approved, and it will flow to the new, or transfer to the new journal. So if you see afterward in the video record, you can see that the voucher number has been changed because it has been, and also the journal batch number because it has been transferred to the new journal. And afterward, you can just click on the post to post this settlement. And the next part is the same for the settlement return credit. So in a case you have customer payment file, so you need to import the file to the customer payment journal. In this case, so we need first to create the payment journal, click on the functions, choose the method of payment, the same as vendor method of payment. So they have almost the same interface. We just choose the import incorrect records, settle trend. In a case that we have several banks in our legal entity, and so you can just feel free the bank accounts. So in a case that the bank has mixed all of this customer payment across all of your bank accounts, so you can just feel it free and just choose all of these alternatives, settle and import the bank exchange rate, and just import the file. So if you have a better understanding, so you just go through customer payment journal, create a new one. You can just, I do recommend to just fill it with the correct description. For example, a payment file from with a specific date. And then go through the functions, import payment file, choose the method of payment that associate with the ISO configurations. In this case, so I have choose the bank account, but it doesn't must do. So you can just remove this bank account number. So, and as you see, as soon as the file get important, so it will be imported based on each lines, and it will also just mark the transaction in this case. So since the first lines is aligned and also marked or settled with the two transactions, so we got a warning that if you see here, there are two transactions here. So that has been aligned and has been settled to this journal line. So you just get a warning about those bulk payments. And also in the payment note, there is information about the debtor detail, account number that has been sent, for example, payment ID, payment reference, and all of the information that you need from the bank file. So you do not either need to just open the XML file, because it's not much easy for everyone to just open the file and understand. Although if we have just opened it several times, so it's easy to understand. But I do recommend to check the payment file. And if you see here, when I check on the open customer invoices, and I just align with the vendor payment method, so the amount is correct. But I cannot make sure that every line has been imported before I just import the bank statement. So bank statement is the super critical here. So as you see, I have checked with the open vendor customer invoices, so everything was fine. So I can now post the payment journal. As a last step, so we have the CAMP 053, which is a bank statement. This is the file that we can use for alignment that, okay, the settlement file for the vendor has been imported correctly, and the same for the customer. Because sometimes may happen there's something, we get an error message, it doesn't work. So we need to, this file is something like the source to show everything that has been processed by the bank. The same as other ISO file. So they have two versions, mostly uses version 2, but latest one that is using by some banks are version 14. And if you see here, so I go to the bank statement and just import the statement. If you just receive the bank file across the company, so you can just activate this file. I just import the file and choose the statement format that I have created. So in this case, I have just one file from the bank. So for this bank, and if, as you see, there are all of these payments that has been processed by the bank. And on the text, so there is also payment notes from the bank, which file that has been used and can be applied here. So I think I have run a little bit out of the time, but as a last step that I want to talk about is about the integration part. So as a recap, so we just gone through the bank integration, why it's important. We have just compared it with the customization. Then we have gone through how we can just import the standard configuration from the Microsoft repositories from the Dataverse. And then we have just gone through each forms in finance and operation that need to fill out to enhance the quality of the data. And then we start with how we can generate the payment file and import also the payment file. And in these steps is the last one. So we just want to talk about how we can just create this integration standard. So basically, most banks use the secure transfer approaches to receive and send the files. So most of them use the either SFTP. So I have seen mostly SFTP and APIs. So that can be used as the secure transfer format. So secure file and data transfer is a key design consideration here. So common secure transfer approaches, as I told, is include SFTP, which is often used for the file bank communication, and APIs, which is support more direct and real-time integration scenarios. With finance and operation, one option is to use SharePoint together with the Power Platform Cloud Flows to move, monitor, and process the bank files with a limited customization. So it means that you create this file type as a SharePoint for example, pane 01, pane 02, and CAMT 44 and DNC, and also 53. And you create a flow to import and export. And another option is that more direct finance and operation customization. So you create the SFTP connector in finance and operation where you can define where files are exchanged through the secure channel. For example, you just create, okay, this SFTP setup, this, for example, file types is, for example, transferred to this, for example, file map, and this file, for example, to another file map. So both of them used for all of our customers that we are working with. So some of them use the standard variant, which is via SharePoint, and some of them just create the customization to have this flow in finance operation with the customization. So if you see for the standard flow, so we can use the file state for the source for importing the file. So it's for example, for the settlement file for the vendor, payment receipt or payment status report, and the bank statement. And in the next picture, if you see, there is a connection string, a connection for SFTP, so we can create it. So for example, this file has been sent through the pane 00 file type. And on the file type, so you can just define, for example, when it's pane 001, use this file direction. And when it comes to create that flow, so there is a simple flow that one can create it here. So to be honest, I'm now finished. So when it comes to the questions, I'm open for questions. So feel free. So Deepak or Rashid,
Yes.
Umesh, Satya. So yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Alireza. What a wonderful
Thank you.
session.
Yep.
A lot of thing to consume within those 1 hours. But yeah, amazing session, Alireza. Thank you so much. We have a couple of questions here. First question from Ifasanya. Uh, what it's mentioned here, I have an issue while importing CAMT053 account statement file in the import statement page. I noticed the form and two dates were empty. I spoke to the bank and they said the file is standard for all the customers. They want to check from ERP for the mapping. What should I do?
Yes. That's a great question, first of all, because it's one of the challenges that we have, and basically it comes from the bank. So to be honest, banks generally does not accept any fails. So we need to take into consideration the bank integrations. If it's something that will happen, we must fix it, not bank, because there is something like a loyal issue that it will create that, okay, bank create some fails. So the first thing here is that when it comes to the bank statements, so we have three fields most used for import: from date, to date, which is on the statement header, and also the line dates. So the line dates and time should be included in the from date and to date. And we have one problem, that some banks do not send that from date and to date. Some of them send it in a format that is not defined in the electronic reporting. For example, they just send the date. They don't send the date time format. So what we have done, in a nutshell, we have created the right version of the bank statement for the CAMP 053, and we have just assigned this that if bank send date, so it just convert it to the date time. If it's sent to the date time with a specific format, they just convert it to the format that can be imported to the finance operation. This is the logic 2. Logic 3 is that when it's going to import the date, so it will follow the GMT hours. For example, if banks send it, for example, from, for example, 4th of August, for example, let us say at 6 o'clock, we receive the payment bank statement. So from today, 000 to 23:59:59. So this is something that you need to make sure that once you import it in finance and operation, Microsoft does not use the GMT plus 2 that sometimes they have to import the file. So a easy answer to your question, you need to open the CAMP 043 to just find it out what is the date, from date, and to date that Microsoft, the bank sends, and then just find it out that why it's not processed, why it's empty. So it means the mapping cannot read that format. So you need to fix it via the extended configurations in electronic reporting. If you don't have expertise here, so I do recommend to just follow my GitHub project, because this is something like I have seen among many countries that have this issue. So I have also created the draft project for that. So I can just create the codes that you need to have in electronic reporting to fulfill this challenge.
Great. Thanks, Lisa. Ifsania, I hope you got your answer. We have another question from PS. First, thank you for your wonderful session. Could you please help me understand how these configurations were added to the reporting destinations? It would also be really helpful if you can explain how these are connected through SharePoint blob storage and SSH or PHP keys. I would like to learn more about those areas.
Yes. When it comes to understand the configuration, so I have demonstrate on the first slide, and the reporting destination. So if you want to, it's based on the method that you are using or approach that you're using for the integration. Is it via the SharePoint? So you need to define the file types. For example, file type for the pane 001, 2, and CAMP 23. And you need on the file type define that which file map in the SharePoint they are connected to. So this is the first step for the reporting destinations. So on the destination, electronic reporting destination is for the pane 001, which is exported. You need to just define it as the export file. When it comes to the electronic state destination, which is for the import, you need to just choose this file, a configuration, and choose which file map they are reading from the statement file, from the SharePoint to import the file. For your last question, explain how this connected through. When it comes to SFTP, so SFTP, you need to have the, first of all, when it comes to export or import the file to the bank through the API or SFTP, you need to make sure, first of all, do you need to have encryption or not? Is it the bank, for example, say that you need to encrypt the file and send it or not? So it's the first step. If not, so it's much easier. So number 2 is that, okay, first of all, you need to have SFTP when it's come to the SFTP. So it's most used. I will cover that now. So you need to have the username, password, and you need to have the private key. So, and the private key need to be uploaded to this SFTP that you are creating via the Power Platform Automate. So you need to upload this credential there as a one time. So to just make this connection going. So as soon as it has been established there, so via this automation that you have created, so you can just say, okay, you can receive the file from the SFTP, put it in the SharePoint in this folder. and the same for the exchange file. So you can just define it. So if I just move back to my previous slide here, so it's here, so you can just create this automation here that where to create the file, where to put the file, where to read the file. So, but when it comes to SFTP, the main things that you need to have the username, password, and private key that you need to receive from the bank. But if it's configuration via customization, custom code, so if you have SFTP, that, for example, if I just move back to the slides here, just a moment. So if you see here on this form, for example, if you see here, so we have KBS now as a connection ID and it's SFTP. So I haven't shown in the picture, but if you see on the password storage, so I use the key vault. So I have the password on the key vault, and it's based on the custom code, customization that you have created. Here we have put everything, the connections, username, password, and private key as in the key vault. So we just import it and connect it to this SFTP, so to get works. But when it comes to the Power Automate, so it's based on how you want to use that. I don't know if it's a little bit technical. So if you want to step how to do that, so I can just show it in another session. But if you want to, know the overview how it works. So as I told, in a nutshell, if it's encrypted, it's too critical because you need to encrypt the file when you send, and you need to decrypt the file when you receive it. But if it's not the encryption in this view, so you need to just go for the credential that you need for the SFTP.
Brilliant. Thanks, Aloysia. Considering we overrun nearly 15 minutes, so if anyone else have any question, please feel free to drop up or do your questions on the different available options. Like when you can put a comment on the video, you can connect us on the LinkedIn, wherever you are comfortable, and we would be more than happy to assist you any of those questions. So with that, we are good to wrap up. Thank you so much, Reza, again. Thanks, every attendees for joining this session. Thanks, Sumesh.
Thank you, everyone.
Any words from you?
Yeah, it was a great session. It was a great session, definitely. And I was patiently understanding everything, and I was, architecture-wise, I'm very glad that I have seen those architectures before, and it was really love to see it again. So very good.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I think we'll get the URL for the download recording session, right?
Not
Yeah,
URL,
yeah,
Bhuvakar. So if you please subscribe to our YouTube channel, you will
YouTube
get a
channel, yeah.
notify when we upload those recordings. Generally, we upload within 1 week of time.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay. I'll knock in the channel. Okay.
Sure.
Yes, please.
In case you need anything, I think I can give you. You can reach out to me on the LinkedIn DM. I will help you out, no problem. In case it is, videos are needed to be downloaded, definitely I can help you around it.
Okay. Can you drop the channel here?
Sure.
Channel URL?
Yes, I did in the chat. Yes.
No problem. I'm dropping it again.
Yeah, I got it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a lovely day.
Thank you, everyone.
And
Thank you.
we'll see you very soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.